You want to be seen, but you don't want to just add more shit to the pile, creating content for the sake of content. You want to stand out, differentiating yourself from all those other people. But how the heck do you do that? That's why we have Sabine here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Sabine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shauna. So good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Sabine Schopke, and I'm a retired serial entrepreneur of over 30 years. I started my first business when I was 19 and I was homeless. And and today I am in a chapter where I want to give back and I want to help others really feel the way that I feel. It's really not about achieving, but it's really about getting into this place where you love what you do and make money with that.
And those two things are really important, especially when it comes to making yourself seen, making sure that you're being visible, and also not just being visible for the sake of being visible, for the sake of like ego, right? Actually wanting to make an impact. And you don't do that by following along with what everybody else is doing. So where do we start with this conversation? Because I know a lot of people now are leaning in and going, okay, yeah, I get it. I've been wanting to do this for so long and it hasn't worked. Nothing's worked. Where do I start?
So it's true. And I get that a lot too. People are like, oh, well, it's easy for you to say, but that is not true. It's really not. I think it starts with an awareness about what's going on out there. And I mean, even after all of these years of starting, scaling, selling businesses, once I retired and I said, oh, I want this to be my chapter where I give back. Like I thought it was easy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to learn about Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm going to put it out there and share my lived wisdom with people. It's not that easy. And it took me a few months and I spent a pretty dollar until I realized I took a step back and I was like, why is this not working? And then I thought, dummy, like, what have you done in the past? Have you done what everybody else is doing? No, I never did. So, and that's when I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, this is no different than starting and scaling a business. So why don't we tune back into and really like lean into how am I different? Like, yes, you need to get clarity on what it is that you want to do, but let's just assume, oh my God, this really rocks my world. This fills my cup. This is what I want to do. So what's the next step? The next step is, okay, so what differentiates me from everybody else? And lean into that and not buy into like the mass produced programs that are out there that promise you the world and they promise you the secret sauce on getting differentiation. But really, I think we're in an era where we're getting back to, okay, like what am I bringing to the table? What makes me special? What are my experiences? And when I mean experiences, I mean the good stuff, the knowledge that I've acquired, but also the fails that I've had, the negative experiences, like the ones that we perceive as negative. Like I feel like honestly that the things that I have struggled through in my life were actually the biggest lessons and the biggest gifts that have helped me to get to where I am today. And so there is a few tools I can suggest that people can use to be different, to stand out, because creating exposure alone is not enough. You need to create differentiation.
Absolutely. And this is kind of a word that I tend to use a lot in my business doing branding and marketing, as we talk about what are your differentiators. And a lot of times I get responses like, well, I really care. And I'm like, friend, that's wonderful. Please never stop caring. And also, no, that's not a differentiator. At least it's not one in the eyes of your ideal clients.
Right.
And I hate to think that it is a differentiator in the grand scheme of things, because I don't want to believe that some people don't care. So I just want to merge topics here where we're talking about the differentiators and what actually makes a differentiator, but then also how your experiences, both good and bad and everything in between, feed into that. Because you've had quite the journey in life.
Right.
We've had a past conversation where we walked through quite a bit of a roller coaster that just climaxed with you in a cabin all alone in, is it Germany?
Yeah, in the German Alps.
Because that in and of itself, I mean, I just want to point out that like just that story differentiates you from somebody else. Somebody hears, wait, hold on. So you were just hanging out in Germany somewhere as almost as a recluse in a cabin. Already somebody's leaning in. So for those who are thinking, well, what is my differentiator? I've lived like a normal life. Where do they dig down to find those stories? Where do they look?
Yeah. So just to clarify, like after I sold my last company and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna help people. And then I hit a wall and I was like, oh my God, like how, I don't know. And that's when I actually like I got rid of all of my belongings. I narrowed all of my belongings down to 2 suitcases. I got on a flight on December 31st, 23. I got on a plane and I flew to Germany. I had this for the last 20 years, I had this vision of like being in the German Alps. And so I'm like, time to do it. Kids are out of the nest. It's just me. Let's go. And I put myself into like an isolation, into a monk life to kind of really reset and redefine what it is that I want. So yes, that's a differentiator, but people are like, I can't do that. Well, you could, but I understand you can't. But I think the example you gave about, oh, but I care. I think that's actually a really good starting point because it's a huge differentiator. Huge. Okay. So when it comes to us human beings, compassion is one of our big differentiators when it comes to technology, when it comes to AI and everything that's going on right now. And where does compassion come from? It comes from having had your own experiences and being able to relate to others who are struggling, let's say, right? Like who are
Yeah.
going through a hard time, they're struggling. So you have had your own experiences. And my question would be if somebody told me, well, I care. And I would say, where does that come from? What have you experienced in life that you care? So let's say it was, let's just give an example. Let's say it was infertility. I have
Yeah.
had a miscarriage and I care deeply about other women who have miscarriages. Oh my God, bingo, there's your differentiator. So now let's talk about this. Let's say you're a coach who wants to empower women and let's say and infertility is your thing. So where to start? Well, I would say pick a platform where your audience hangs out, depending on what kind of offers you want to sell. Let's just say you want to go on LinkedIn. Okay, let's go on LinkedIn. Let's share who you are, what your story is, what your big why is, and tell and show people with the story that you tell in LinkedIn posts, not as a victim, but as somebody who came out on the other side, how you did this. So become the solution for people. And
Absolutely.
that's why, that's how we differentiate ourselves from AI, because AI will never be able to do that, right? And I am not against AI.
Mm-hmm.
There's many great ways to use AI. And my thing is use AI to serve you, but don't become enslaved by AI. So but that's our big differentiator. The machine will never be able to be compassionate, to have had those experiences where we can build relationships with people, where, where we resonate with people. And I think that's a huge, it's huge. And it's, I think what has made me so successful on LinkedIn in just 3 months by sharing my stories of the struggles that I've gone through. Again, not as a victim, but as somebody who has come out on the other end and say, okay, so this is what I've learned and this is what has worked for me. And, coming together in community and sharing and supporting, collaborating. I mean, this is how you and I met online on LinkedIn, because you and I both have a desire of being in community and supporting each other, collaborating, cooperating. And I think, no, I know this is the way to differentiate, and this is the way of the future, especially with what is happening technologically online.
Absolutely. And this is interesting because when I say that I care
Mm-hmm.
isn't a differentiator, I want to clarify that I mean that statement on its own on an island
Right.
isn't a differentiator. And I think you did a great job at exemplifying that. My question always is, why? Why do you care? And then we do it again. They answer, why? Why this situation? Well, why that? And then you start being curious. And if you don't have a partner of some sort to help you dig through, then asking yourself why and being honest and vulnerable with yourself can help you define that differentiator between other individuals, people who care.
Right.
But I think it's really interesting that you pointed out our differentiators from uh, computers, from AI. I think that's very interesting because if I'm being honest, when I think of differentiators, I don't often think about comparing ourselves to this artificial intelligence. And when you shared that, it reminded me of a study that a business colleague shared with me last week, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And they said that there was a really cool study conducted with 3 groups. One group, completely AI. The other group was completely human. And this was a health study. So these were
Uh-huh.
doctors. And then another group was a combination, doctors and AI collaborating. And it was remarkable, the statistical significance in the difference of the performance of all of them, particularly when it was solo AI, solo human.
Uh-huh.
Their performance levels, whether or not the diagnostics were correct and all of that jazz, whether they were successful based on the study, was quite low, actually.
Yeah.
But when they worked together, it was significantly higher. So when you're collaborating with an artificial intelligence, that's when we
Yes.
saw some statistical significance there. So I think it's really important for us to differentiate ourselves from that unit and leverage it strategically in all that we're doing in order to further differentiate ourselves, really,
Yes.
from the masses.
Yeah. Like I said, I really truly believe that it can serve us very much as long as we put boundaries on it. And every aspect of artificial intelligence, superficial intelligence, and everything that's going on, like to really, like I said, let it serve us, but don't get enslaved by it. Don't succumb to it. Don't think you have nothing to offer and AI has all of the answers. No, like know that what you have experienced, oh my God, these are the golden nuggets. And this is how you're going to build relationships, how you're going to be successful in a beautiful, aligned way that's going to fill your cup and it's going to change lives. And it's such a beautiful, different, much more mindful way to think about success, that it's very fulfilling. It makes it really meaningful.
And the other part of that, I like the words you used because they were very powerful, reminding us not to be enslaved by artificial intelligence in this case. But when it comes to making yourself more visible and differentiating yourself in the marketing world, it's important not to be enslaved by some constructs that are
Right.
outdated and not aligned with you. And that's what I find happens often. People see
Yes.
something that's working for someone else, and so they just toddle along behind them and they try to do the same thing with usually not as good results, if
Yes.
if any. So what is your perspective on that? On you know being mindful about how you approach your own marketing and branding, but also learning from those who have achieved success. Where do we fall in line here?
So I'm a big believer in reverse engineering. I have done it in every single business that I've had. I think I've had 7 businesses in my life, and I've done it in every single one of them. I get like really excited and inspired to look at people, companies, organizations that have done really well and reverse engineer and say, why are they doing well? And take those nuggets and use them as components for my own business. But it's not copying, it's just like, okay, what infrastructure do they have? How do they work? What delivery times do they have? How do they, like those, just take components of that, depending on what your business is. And then it's like a cocktail. Mix it with your own experiences, with the passion that you have, with what makes you you, the experiences that you've had. Mix it with that and lean into that, sharing that, whether it's in the form of the business that you build. You're a creator. And I think that's what people forget. We're all creators. We have gotten so used to, so programmed to, okay, here, sign up for this program, and I'm going to show you the step-by-step way. And people are so used to getting exact instructions. Okay, so I need to warm up the algorithm for 20 minutes, and then I need to post, and I need to do this, I need to do that. No, like, it's not that. It's about taking parts and creating your own and being like 100% yourself out there. And I had a really hard time because I never did social media for any of my businesses before. So when I got into this the end of last year in October, I was like, I have to do what? And I was like so under the impression that nobody cares what I have to say. Like, nobody cares. And I learned really quickly that that was actually my differentiator, by sharing in both camps, because there's really, like, when you build a personal brand, because that's really what it is. That's what we're all doing right now. We're creators creating our personal brand. There's 2 parts to this. There is the competence part, and then there's I call it the warmth part. Like, when so people want to look at you and say, oh my God, she looks like she knows what she's talking about. But at the same time, they want to look at you and say, oh my God, I trust her. Like, as for the knowledge that she has, but also for the human being that she is. I feel safe with her.
Yeah.
So you bring all of that to the table already, and people do care. And I had to get over that, of like, and sharing things that are like personal. Like, I'm a former bodybuilder. Like, I started sharing about that. I never posted pictures online before. Like, who cares what I do, But people do care, because people can relate to that, or it can inspire them, or they, connect on some level with that. And if they don't, and that's the thing, like, get used to either attracting or repelling people. It's totally fine. It's totally okay, because the people you repel, you don't want to work with anyways. You're never going to please everybody. So lean into yourself, lean into what you bring to the table, experience-wise, passion-wise, purpose-wise, and present it to the world, because the world needs you.
I'll just go. You can take the show, and we'll have.
I told you, when I get started, I'm like so passionate about this, because it works. Yes. And makes you so happy when you're in this place of just like being yourself and doing good out there in whichever way, shape, or form you want to do that.
And you know what's funny is that, like, I think about this often whenever someone like you comes here and we have this conversation, and it's exactly what I believe in with so much of my core. And I've been preaching it. I feel like I've been preaching and preaching and preaching. And before we hopped on, I said something about Mama Shauna, because I have a whole story behind that, but I'll share that another time. And I wind up playing Mama Shauna with a lot of people. And I'm like, no, it's all right. Listen, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. We're going to make it feel good within yourself. But you know, just as well as I do, the kids don't always listen to mom, right? So it's important. I believe wholeheartedly it's important to have a community of people who are going to tell your audience, whether it's your kids, your peers, whoever, the same thing, maybe in a different way. And this is something that we can leverage as well when we're looking at our visibility and differentiators. There are a lot of people who like to function on an island.
Right.
I'm of the belief that if you want to go far, you want to go with a community, with people. Now, that said, I feel like that could probably open up a can of worms, and we could probably go on and on and on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you if there's something that we haven't talked about today that you really, really want to share with our audience today. I'm going to give you the chance to do so. But first, I'm going to remind everyone that conversations just like this happen every single week. We are digging into the nuts and bolts of what does it mean to show up as an entrepreneur, as a human, and how can we make it our best life possible? So make sure you subscribe. Join the conversation because we're not going anywhere. We're here to talk to you. We're here to start the conversation and keep it going for long term. And with that, I'll hand the mic over. I'll hand the stage over. Sabine, please tell us, what do we need to hear today?
Oh my God, I feel like we've touched on the most important thing. Like, be yourself and share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Share it because people need to hear it. And not from a victim perspective, but for the you that has come out on the other side and is ready to have an impact on the world and help others and help improve lives with whichever way and shape you want to do that. Forget believing. Know that you already got all it takes. And it doesn't require step-by-step programs. If you need tools, reach out to any one of us who've done it and just ask for help. Just ask and you will receive, because that's what we're here for, to support each other and collaborate.
Yeah. Community matters. It
Yes.
matters so much more than we could put words to.
Yeah.
And of course, remind people where they can go to find you, because that's an important part of the process.
So the easiest is on my website. It's www.thepowerlifecoach.com. And again, I am not trying to sell anybody any coaching, but it just makes me so happy when I can help people, share with people, and inspire people to take that step and to take that leap to create a life for themselves that is fulfilling and rewarding. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Sabine Schopke. And just drop by and say hello.
I love it. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and for hopping on board the authenticity wagon. Because honestly, I know it's a buzzword. I know people are getting sick and tired of it, but I kind of want you all to get sick and tired of it because it needs to stick around. It needs to keep coming up because people are forgetting about that in today's crazy, fast-paced world of, again, like I said at the beginning, throwing shit on the pile. So if we can really tap into who we are and show up with authenticity, you're going to reap the rewards in more ways than you will ever suspect. With that, I'm going to leave you all to have a great rest of the day. Don't forget to join the conversation and subscribe so that you can catch the next episode. We'll chat soon.